Okay, let's move on to our next topic. It's going to be the time you were most scared. So speaking of Halloween movies and getting you all hot and bothered with the scares, I wanted to just quickly, because this would be a nice short topic, but share a story of the time that we were just the most pants-shitting moment we've had. And I looked up, and I'll preface this really quickly with some research that I found on why we get scared. And it's just a couple notes here. I read about a professor in neuroscience and psychology, and basically, fear is a response to immediate stimuli, right? That is actually the same across rats and humans. So they're able to do a lot of tests in fear with rats that they find, it works across with humans. Other researchers find fear to be vastly different. So on one hand, we definitely all share the same way in which fear is generated in a way. Like once it's generated, how we react to it. But we found that researchers have found that like fear can be vastly personal.
Like something more typical to just yourself, right? Yeah.
Some people freak out because the Wall Street's gonna
crash.
Some people that's all fear, right? So they basically the fear stimulus first actually shows up in the amygdala.
Amygdala.
The amygdala. Thank you, Jesus. So what happens is basically it's like I think about this as like in terms of computers, like electrical shock, and something turns on, but it's basically blood flow shoots up into that, and that's what causes the fight or flight motion. And then it also releases dopamine, right? And then that's why it can kind of feel
right. Like some people are like horror junkies. They like love to be scared. Like our friends, Chrislyn and Becky, loved horror movies.
Right, and they've actually done research on those people too, and they've watched their
amygdala.
Amygdala.
It's way easier than what it looks like.
Right. Anyway, that part of the brain, and they noticed that people have they use a metaphor like they don't know how to. Some people break it off well, but some people don't know how to break it off so well, and they actually start to get like they call them a junkie for it, right? So that would be like our friends Chrislyn and Becky. Like they have a higher tolerance for this rush of dopamine and blood flow to that area in the brain, and so they actually enjoy it more. And what they found is that people, so that's one way to enjoy it more. But you also need to have a good experience with it when you were a kid. Usually, if you had a bad experience with something scary, chances are you will not like this rush because it will remind you. Like if you're too young to understand that monsters aren't fake. Or are fake rather, you might have a bad reaction to that. Like me personally, I think I watched Amityville Horror a little too young because the concept of exorcism and demonization kind of still freaks me out to this day. Those movies, I tend to like. Paranormal Activity does freak me out because it's about these demons coming in or whatever. But like slasher movies, I'm fine.
What about Signs?
Right? No, not at all. I didn't. No. Well, that was more aliens and stuff.
Well, I guess it kind of has like that religious aspect to it, though.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it has to be like devil possession.
Okay, like The Exorcist,
I think,
or like
to really get. Yeah, that still to this day kind of freaks me out at times. Like I suffer what they call from. This is great. So there's night terrors, and if people who don't know what night terrors are, it's like having a dream, right, and then you wake up kind of still feeling it, I believe. I suffer from sleep paralysis, which means you wake up, but your body has not released or stopped the chemical that. So what happens is when you go to bed, sometimes you'll notice that like you twitch a little bit, and you're like, God, I just want to go to bed. Well, your body's in the process of releasing chemicals to stop you from twitching. So it's basically to paralyze you. I suffer from what they call sleep paralysis, in which the brain does not stop giving that chemical, and I actually wake up a bit, and you're highly more prone to hallucination, partly in fact because it's pitch black, and partly in fact because you're still half asleep, but you can see everything, and so you start hallucinating, you can't move, and sometimes it can feel like a half hour, and all you can do is really grunt. So I've gotten really good at grunting and moaning. And Sarah, when she hears that, she'll try to wake me up. But like when I didn't have Sarah, it really sucked. Especially if you're alone, because then you have all these hallucinations. So I'll often have hallucinations of like demons talking to me, and, like trying to possess me. And, it's very creepy. Yeah. And so watching a movie like that could very much helps stimulate, increase the chances of me having that. And it's just the worst, not being able to move or talk or do anything and just sit there and let your mind
Yeah.
fuck with you.
That sucks. Yeah, that's like the worst thing
If
possible
it,
to like just be like
if you look at
trapped
old,
like there.
yeah, if you look at old religious books and exorcist books, they talk about sleep paralysis as a demon coming down and sitting on your
Oh,
chest because you could feel the weight, and that's what's causing you to not move.
that
It's
is
so
super
freaky. I looked it
creepy.
up.
Ugh,
Yeah.
ugh.
Um, yeah, dude. So I had a bad experience, and that's why I have trouble watching that. So, man, so that leads us into the idea of like what has been our time that we were
Okay.
scared the most.
Oh man, I'm thinking one of the times for sure was when we were out in Savannah checking out those like
Mm.
abandoned houses in like squares.
Oh yeah, with Kristen and
Yeah,
Becky, right?
that was pretty scary. I don't think it was the same
Yeah.
time. It was a different time. I think it was actually with like Mark and Alex and
Oh,
maybe
I must have
maybe you
not been
weren't
there.
there. Yeah, because I don't think I went with you guys that time. You went out.
Yeah. Okay. That was
Yeah,
Pete.
and
That
that, I
was that.
mean, your mind just plays tricks on you nonstop when you are in a creepy place right from the get-go, you know?
Totally. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. We've always wanted Savannah's. So those who don't know, we went to Savannah College of Art and Design. Savannah is the second most haunted city in the nation. I think second to
Oh,
Salem.
probably, yeah.
Um, right? And they actually have a house that's been for sale since we were in college and before that. But I believe the stipulation, and this was like confirmed somehow. I don't know why I believe this, but I do, is that you have to actually sleep there for a night. And if you could sleep there for a night, you know,
The curse is
it's okay. You
lifted.
could so not that the curse is lifted, but like you know what you're getting yourself. I don't know, like the way it was explained to me was like it made sense at the time. It was like no, like like law says, you know, like for you to buy this, you have to know exactly what you're covering, so you have to sleep. And so it's probably bullshit, but like
Yeah, it sounds like a good urban
it was
myth.
really interesting, and I always, yeah, and I always wanted us to go there and sleep there at night. I thought it would have been amazing because I had my camera at the time, and the camera had night vision, and it would have been so sweet. It would have been so
Yeah,
scary.
like too
I
scary.
would have been totally down for that.
Oh shit. Friday.
Yes, but I would have
No,
been so down for that.
can't hear.
Um,
I can't hear.
but yeah, uh,
Okay.
so I think I will say I mentioned Amityville Horror. I really do think, man, the time I might have been the scared the most was watching that movie with my buddy. We were like having a sleepover. We were like 10, and it was Amityville Horror 2, and it was about a family that moved into the house, and this kid slowly gets possessed, and he does weird things like he starts like groping his own
Oh.
sister, and his dad's like really aggressive, and him and get into it, and he ends up like wanting to kill his younger brother and sister. But there's this like night in which he gets up, and I think he starts trying to strangle, and there's screams, and then the dad wakes up and he's got a shotgun, and it all crescendos into this hallway where everybody's there, and he's about to kill his own son. And I like ran over and stopped it, and I looked at my buddy and I was like, dude, I think we should stop. He's like, yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it was so scary, and like partly because of the argument and the loud screaming and like all this stuff going on, like I just couldn't.
Uh,
It was so freaky, and like he was possessed, and it was all like, you know, like the previous movie had blood. We just lost Alan, but no worry, I'll get him back. The previous movie had like blood going down the stairs. It's a very scary movie.
Sorry about
There we
that.
go. No worries. But I finished my thought, and I think that might be, unless I can think of something else, that might be the time I was
Yeah.
scared the most. Where like, as you get older, it becomes less about that in some ways, and just more about
It's usually not like outside influence. It's more about like what's already like trapped inside your brain as you get older, I feel like, because you're just like you have more to lose the older you get.
yeah, and like my scare is like, oh, we had giant
Exactly.
layoffs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, and
It's
that's
like,
less
oh
interesting.
my God, like I'm
S-
gonna be broke for, the rest of my life or something, not
yeah,
have money for retirement. Um,
right. Yeah. So I can't think of anything funny or interesting in which like, yeah,
um,
You know, when I was a kid, we had this junkyard a ways away behind this cul-de-sac that we would all play in, where all the kids would grow up. And like over the course of a summer, we slowly got braver and braver and started going into these woods. I don't know if you remember, or if you had these kind of like thorns
Oh
that would
yeah, yeah,
stick
yeah.
out. You know what I mean? So, right, like these vines, and so we would have to hack through that. And we got further and further into these woods, and we eventually found that we had a junkyard in the back. And it was amazing because it was just walls of cars, and so we like climbed over them and walked through them, and like, you know, it's taking 5 minutes to take like 5 steps, and like we're just slowly inching forward, and we get to a point in which we pass this fork in the road behind us, and all of a sudden we see this like car lights like flash on us. I'm gonna get him back in just a second. This is why Patreon would be really great, because then we can have better internet connection for Rocco as well. Patreon.com/Maelstrom Gamers. So I don't know where I left off, Alan, with you, but we crossed this fork behind us, right? And then the lights flashed on, and the car just starts like, it turns on and starts driving towards us, and we just split. We were so scared that like somebody was like gonna like take us or whatever. And I don't know how old we were. I think we were in middle school. Everybody in my group, there was like 6 of us, went on the left side of the fork, and I went to the right and like ran all the way to cars, jumped over the cars, and like stayed there for a while. And like but like I remember being very scared at that point because I wasn't sure who this person was or if I would get out alive. So being a kid and being very adventurous, and like I remember that being fun and scary, exploring things that like as an adult I would just realize I could drive around the corner and see the entrances. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Your world is so much smaller as a kid. It's really interesting to see it slowly expand. You know, as you grow up, or as
I feel
you
like
do these crazy fun
I feel like
adventures.
I did have a lot of those experiences where it's just like you're exploring like the woods or something, and you just find like a really creepy scene, you know, like some sort of like structure has been built, and you just find like something that you perceive as like these are altars or something like that, you know. Even to this day, when you find something in the woods, like deep in the woods, you know, you're like, oh, like I'm not the first person here. Like, is there who else is out here right now? That alone is like really creepy, I think, to me. Like finding stuff, I think finding stuff in the woods, like in nature, is like way scarier than anything like inside a house, like a person being inside the closet or something to me. Even though it's interesting because you'd think like out in the woods you'd have like more openness, you know, you're like available to like escape if you needed to, whereas in a house, you know, you're really closed in. But something about like the amount of like open area makes it even scarier for some reason.
We don't have your video.
Oh, really?
FYI. Yeah. I think I'd like to take a stab at why maybe that is. And not your video, but maybe because, do you think because like it's just one of those things ingrained in us like through nature? Because like as we were nomadic and moving from place to place, seeing a structure, I would think would elicit a flight or fight. Like you're a tribe, you've come onto another tribe's structure or potential structure that's inhabited. You're like, oh crap, are they friend or foe? Do we take this over? Do we not? Do we leave it? Like. It elicits this response of there are X number of people that don't know here.
I think it's also that fear of the unknown in general. Like the same way like the ocean is really scary or space is really scary because you don't have any idea, you know, there's distance to go in every direction that you have no idea what is out there basically. So like if you're inside somewhere, it's a little bit more familiar, even though it feels almost like an invasion of privacy if somebody else is there with you. You know, that's scary to like be taking up your like sacred area. But if you're somewhere else, then it's just like I have no like right or reason to be here.
Oh man, dude, yeah, you're hitting every nail on the head. That is so true. I get to the cusp of hyperventilating sometimes if I let myself think about being trapped out in space alone or out in the ocean alone. It's such a scary thought for me to just be out in a vastness.
Yeah.
and not knowing what could could
Oh
there be a
yeah,
shark
yeah.
over there? Or, oh, it's like I'm getting my heart's racing thinking about it right now. Like, I hate thinking about
every
that,
every
and
time
I don't
like
know
I'm
why, but
in anywhere like by the ocean and I jump in the ocean for the first time, especially if it's like a snorkeling trip or something
oh
like that where you like
yes,
already are in like the open ocean and you
yes,
just jump into the water, that first jump, my heart is just racing. I'm like like just breathing crazy. Yeah. It's so creepy
dude,
because
because it's like having wool and then and being like, okay, what am I seeing? Yeah, yeah,
it is
it's
really and
scary.
also because in the water so many things just catch your peripheral vision because you have so much distance to be looking around, you know? It's like something could catch
Mm-hmm.
your like peripheral vision from below or from above or like from behind you, like anywhere. So you're always like, oh, what was that? You know?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Vulnerability on a
Yeah,
360
yeah.
degree,
And
right?
to a lesser degree, somewhere open like in nature is like that too, because rather than more set up sight lines the way you have in like a city or a building or something, you have your corridors and walls, everything kind of mapping where you're looking and masking out areas that
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to be looking. Out there, it's like you could be spinning around, but in that time, by the time you get 360 degrees, something has changed behind where you were, you know.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
right, that happens in
absolutely.
horror movies all the time. They're doing that circling pan, and then all of a sudden, boom! Like there's like a guy behind you, you know?
Yeah, yeah, or as they're walking, something
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or
shuffles
like the
behind
sounds,
them
yeah,
or
the
whatever. And you're just
sounds.
like,
It just could be anywhere.